All of our productions at GCTV are brought to you in part by People's United Bank, 45 Federal Street in Greenfield. Call them at 774-3713 or visit them online at peoples.com. C&S Wholesale Grocers is hiring in Hatfield and Brattleboro. Go to weselectthebest.com or click on the link at gctv.org for employment opportunities. The Arbors at Greenfield, assisted living community providing a unique balance of independence and personal care that offers residents and families the most precious gift of all, peace of mind. The Hammond family. The Hammond family are longtime supporters of Greenfield Community Television. New Fortune Chinese Restaurant on the Mohawk Trail in Greenfield. Visit them online at newfortunema.com and check them out on Facebook. Greenfield Community College, providing access and excellence in higher education in the Pioneer Valley. gcc.mass.edu. Greenfield Savings Bank. Visit them at 400 Main Street in Greenfield, call them at 774-3191, or go online to greenfieldsavings.com. Franklin Community Co-op. Visit them at 144 Main Street in Greenfield or go online to franklincommunity.coop. Bay State Health, providing the care you and your family need when you need it close to home. Visit them online at baystatehealth.org. Thank you to our sponsors for supporting all the productions at Greenfield Community Television.
My name is Diane Pearlman. I'm the Executive Director of the Berkshire Film and Media Collaborative. We are based in the Berkshires, but we serve all four Western Mass counties. We create educational, workforce, and production opportunities for people in the film and media industry in Western Mass, which basically means if you want to make a film, you call us and we help you with hotels and caterers and extras, and I don't have any money for locations, and that's what we do. I'm really excited about the visibility panel because film and media is all about visibility. And I think we have an incredible creative economy. I'm blown away by Tim Lowe. I've known him for several years, and he's just basically created an industry in this state. So this morning we have an amazing visibility panel. I have not met many of the panelists until this morning, but just very excited. I want to thank two people who helped put together this panel, Katie Moonen, who's right here, and Todd Trebor, wherever Todd is, right there. So thanks, you guys. And how we're gonna do it is, a couple of people here have sort of brought slides or video to explain what they do as opposed to me reading boring bios. So I'm just going to introduce everyone, and then we're going to just go down the panel, and after that we'll start talking about what visibility is and how these guys have been successful at it. So Justin Thomas. So Justin is from Ugone and Thomas Fine Lighting and Home Accessories. Bronwen Hodgkinson is an artist herself, but she also runs the Valley Art. She created the Valley Arts newsletter, as well as runs the art salon here in the Pioneer Valley. Next is Amrita Ramanan from Double Edge Theater. Then we have Steve Porter from Porterhouse Media. And after that is Kamil Peters. He's an artist, amazing artist working in metal. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to these guys to introduce themselves and give you some background. Are we on?
Oh, there we are. Hey. I'm Justin Thomas. I am co-owner of Ugone and Thomas Company. We're a large artist studio based in East Hampton, Massachusetts. My business partner is Janna Ugone, who couldn't be here today. She's the founder of the company. She founded it in 1987. I started working with her in 1993. I was a work-study student actually at UMass Amherst getting my BFA. and stayed with the company since then and became co-owner in 2008. So we primarily produce and manufacture lighting, and we market it and sell it across the U.S., primarily through American craft galleries. We have about 250 that represent us. And we also do a lot of work, exclusive work and design with Sundance Catalog, Charleston Gardens, Orvis. And that's the bulk of how we get our work into the marketplace. We also do a lot of e-commerce and work with other e-commerce, specifically e-commerce catalogs and companies as well. And that's about it for us.
Are these all on?
Yeah.
My name is Bronwen Hodgkinson. I wear many hats. I'm a web designer and developer. It's my main job. But the reason I'm here is because I publish a weekly arts newsletter called the Valley Arts Newsletter, which tries to list every visual arts event happening in the Pioneer Valley, as well as classes, calls to artists, and studio space availabilities. I've been doing that since 2008. And it just keeps growing. So I suppose what I do is to raise the visibility, rather, not so much of myself, but of other artists in the Valley. I also help run an event called the Art Salon that happens 6 times a year. 5 or 6 artists give presentations of their work, and it's another great way to, again, raise the visibility of local artists in the area that people otherwise wouldn't have heard of. And that's about it.
Awesome. Great. Hi, everyone. My name is Amrita Ramanan, and I'm the associate producer with Double Edge Theater. We are a 33-year-old nonprofit theater company based out in Ashfield, Massachusetts. And in 1994, the company purchased a former dairy farm that we've renovated now into an arts and agricultural center. We're a permanent ensemble, so we're a company that's in residence that works together to devise original performance that's based in different forms of myth, folk tale, and highly influenced by elements of physical theater. So we incorporate a lot of movement and different forms of dance, circus technique, aerial technique, and other elements into our performances. We also, within our farm center in Ashfield, have a growing program of training programs for emerging artists and other students. We have youth programming that happens around the area, and then we also develop site-specific performances at our farm center that involve collaborations with local artists in the community to build them together. And I actually wanted to show you some of our performance work, since I think a photo speaks more than words. The performance that I'll show you is from our 2012 production of The Odyssey. We created this performance, and the performance itself travels around our farm center with the performers and the actors and the audience in a way that animates the environment and shares it together. So yeah.
Hello, everybody. Nice to be here with you. My name is Steve Porter, and I am a video mashup remix DJ. Yeah. And so basically, my story is I'm from the area. I was born in Northampton, and I moved to Boston and then subsequently New York to become an international touring DJ and producer. And I was down there in New York for about 8 years. Moved back up to Holyoke in 2008, bought a really amazing mill that I converted into studios, and basically started making video remixes in Holyoke that went viral. We started a company called Porterhouse Media. It all happened very fast. I was on the national news within a week after the first video went up, and had never experienced anything like that before. But it took off, and we sort of ran with it. And for about 5 years now, we've been running a video mashup company in Holyoke. Small team, about six or seven people, core people, but we grind and we work hard. And so it's been an interesting path to get here, but it's been really rewarding to do it all right here from Western Mass. That's that. I guess you can roll the tape.
This guy, he's a brilliant guy. He does these mashups.
Everybody want clap.
Porterhouse Media. DJ Steve Porter.
He's a legend.
Whoever winners,
DJ Steve Porter.
Very cool. Very
first video music remix.
business.
Porterhouse Media.
Making YouTube videos is not a hobby anymore.
I wanted to bring more. Find room on the staff for this guy.
Can you feel the heat? The history. It's about damn time. Making history.
I need to go faster.
Do you have what it takes? Are you ready?
Come to play.
Are you ready for the
Thank you.
money?
Do the thing. Who's my hand?
Living under the sea.
I love SpongeBob.
Split picks.
Leave it to me.
Very serious about cereal. Mm-hmm. Very serious about clusters. You getting this? Very serious about cereal.
We in here talking about practice. Peace in the here. I supposed to be franchise blood. We in here talking about science mixed with slap chop. You're gonna be the great with all things. You're gonna be slapping your troubles away with the slapping your troubles away with the slap chop.
This guy, he does these mashups.
I promise that'll be the last time you see the Slap Chop remix.
All right, tough acts to follow. Man, well, I got a couple of slides. My name's Kamil Peters. I am also a locally bred person, artist who actually went to school here 15 years ago, started my artist career, and from there, ended up at Hampshire College, before that Holyoke Community College, so kind of jumped around quite a bit. But I started off as I don't know if something's gonna happen there. Sort of residential commercial artist. So these are commissions that are done with people where I get to work directly with them and talk about what their vision is and create it out of a medium that they're not used to using. But besides an artist, this is something done for Harold Grinspoon. That's about a 15-foot tall Torah. So it's hard to see the size, but it's huge. But the mask is something that I've been doing on my own and using to teach, actually. I bring young people into my space, and Currently, I'm the co-founder of a space called Brick Co Workshop, located in Holyoke at the Warrigon Building on Dwight Street. We have a group of artists and young entrepreneurs that have been there for about a year and a half. Everything from mixed media to, blanking out here. Because there's too much stuff, I guess. So we're working on pottery, we got jewelry, my metal shop, wood shop, concrete, glass, the list goes on. And so as we've been putting that together, we are definitely working our way towards, bringing new things to the area, new artists, and there we go. Also doing a lot of commercial work for businesses, so signage, and I missed a couple photos, but anything from a tap system for your restaurant to benches. So I'll just tag a couple places if you guys can make it out there. Bread and Butter in North Amherst, the Tiger Lily Hair Salon in Northampton, Mission Cantina, which is great food. The list goes on. So if you check out my website, KamilPeters.com, you'll be able to sort of do a tour of my art and get great food and meet a lot of people in the area that are running awesome businesses. Thank you.
Talented bunch, huh? So when we were putting together the visibility panel, I just want to read sort of what we wanted to accomplish. So whether an independent artist or a creative company, visibility is vital to your survival and success. From market research to cross-collaboration, this panel of successful Western Mass artists, creative businesses, and arts organizations are going to talk about their strategy and tactics that they use to make their work visible and relevant to their markets and communities. So I'd actually like to start by having everyone talk about how important your brand is. Like, how did you build your business? Did it just happen, or was it something you really thought about? Like, I know sometimes for artists, you just make it and then it kind of catches on. Or did you really think, like, this is what we're going to do and how we're going to approach it?
I think I'll go first. Oh, great. In terms of the brand, in terms of what we do, since we're really artists that have kind of also have an entrepreneurial side to us. So in terms of when we've decided to either develop a new product or begin a new relationship or approach a client that we would like to work with or we think something could work for them, it's really a long thought-out process of looking at the problem from a design perspective. So developing the brand kind of followed the product for us, which I think is the case, as you said, with a lot of visual artists. You kind of have an idea or a concept or a thought of that's kind of an interesting thing that maybe the marketplace needs. How can we change it? How can we make it original? How can we present it in an original way and develop it? And then we take it from there and say, how do we market it? How does this fit into the brand? How does this expand the brand? And get it out there, and the end result, hopefully, is that someone buys it. Because that's really what, the deliverable for us in the end is that we, have a product that is usable and functional and, is purchased in the end.
We don't have to go in order. If somebody else wants to talk about it, I'll work for them. Okay, just be creative here.
I guess I'm in the same. We're in the same boat as well. As the brand is very much artistic. It's a very methodical and artistic approach. As far as I wish we could say we have like a product that we designed, but it's our creative product. So I think it has to have the look and feel of our sound or our look and feel, or else it's a departure from what our product is, our brand is.
Totally, ditto to these guys in terms of, for us, it was very much about knowing the type of theater that we were really interested in, the types of forms that we wanted to create, how we would develop performance as an organization. And so it really started from, I think, the point of view of our own artistic passion and desire, and how that then led into how do we tell our story and how do we share with the community. For us, it's been, particularly in Ashfield, a very kind of long and somewhat process-based action in terms of how do we find a way to develop with our community and connect with our community, and our communities have really shared with us what they sense from us and how that becomes part of our storytelling. And then on a very kind of practical level, most recently, we were struggling about what it meant to tell our story, how we share our brand, what it means to actually capture everything that's happening with our growth. So we hired a brand consultant, this really fantastic guy named Danny Skins. He's out of New York. He works with the Hip Hop Theater Festival and other organizations that have more of a multidisciplinary or interdisciplinary component. And he found a way, just really in his seeing, to talk us through how we might start to develop our first ever brochure or our first ever kind of, website redevelopment, because we had been living with our website for some time. So to be able to also have that outside consultation as you're developing your art and have someone really see what that was really meaningful to us.
Yeah, I agree. I think that as an artist, you have no choice but to be an entrepreneur. So as I was going into it, I'm going to coin this right now, guys. I'm calling it the field of dreams model. So
Nice.
If you build it, they will come. And as I started off with next to nothing as an artist, just thinking I wanted to make some things, next thing I know, I'm in this wonderful building, working with a lot of different people. Now I have apprentices, young people that want to learn under me. So now I'm working towards becoming youth activists. I didn't know as an artist that I'd have to focus on running a business from the bottom up. So not only am I the president, but I'm also the janitor. There's so many levels to it that your brand then comes out the end through this quasi-organic process. But next thing you know, you look up, and because of keeping your head down for so long, when you look up, people know more about my business than I do, because they say, oh, you do this, and you do that, and you do this. Yeah, you did a mural over here, and you worked at this school, and you blah, blah, blah. And, well, Kamil Peters Metal Sculpture and Brick Co-Workshop are now this thing that are an entity that started off as a small idea and only has room to grow from there. So it's about constant expansion, I guess, at this point.
Nice.
Yeah.
Actually, that was a great transition. One of the things I wanted to discuss with the group is, it used to be if you were an artist or you went into an industry, you needed to put 10,000 hours into it before you were sort of an expert. And now, as you're saying, Kamil, you're sort of you have to be a generalist. Like, you get to be an artist and an entrepreneur. And I think people used to just do their art, and now you have to have something in the art and business bucket. And do you feel as an artist that you're losing something in your art because you have to take on the business as well?
I feel like that was directed at me a little bit, but
You start.
staring at me. I think you do. You do lose a little bit, but what you lose, you also gain in other ways, because as people come on to my business and are helping me create these masks and learning the process, now I'm able to produce more and put it out to the world. Yeah. As people join the business and as people become a part of it, then I can step away and get back to my original art form, which is, the stuff that I really love to do. But in the meantime, you kind of have to put the work in to create that space for yourself in the long run. So it evens out eventually.
Yeah, I would say balance is the key as far as that stuff goes, especially on our end. I mean, we do a ton of commercial stuff, and that gets really stale after a while, especially if you're trying to do something that came from an artistic form. The genesis was an artistic thing. So, having a good balance between stuff that, can pay the bills, but also, is true to your artistic origins. So in our case, we'll do something for a corporate company like Cisco, which is, not exactly, amazingly creative, but then we'll go and do something for Funny or Die, which is like, they just give us total creative license. So it's about having that balance, or else, I go crazy if I don't have that.
Yeah, I agree. I think balance is definitely key, and I think most creative people are kind of you're always wearing many different hats anyways. I think that's what keeps you creative and keeps whatever it is you do interesting. My day ranges from, straight business numbers to, doing production, to cleaning the bathroom, to dealing with, a client on the phone, to selling direct to people, that do doing marketing and whatnot. So The art thing is still in there. You know, I think I do my own, you know, painting and ceramic sculpture, one-of-a-kind pieces on the side away from the business, but one really feeds and informs the other. So I think, I can't imagine now after this many years of doing one separately. I mean, it's so integrated, and, you know, something really interesting might come up with learn about a new material or technique or something at the studio, and it'll inform something I'm doing, say, at my studio at home, and vice versa. So that's just kind of key, I think, to the whole process. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. That really resonates with me in terms of when coming into Double Edge. We decided as an organization that we would be an artist-run organization. So everyone who's an artist in the company also has a very important role in the business. You know, like one of our lead actors is also the marketing manager. I'm their producer, and then also I'm a dramaturg and scriptwriter for the company. So there's this duality that we constantly have in terms of how we manage the business and how we manage, you know, our art. Our technical director is also the facilities manager and takes care of the pigs that you saw in the slideshow. You know, there's always this constant harmony, and there's definitely moments where there's tension in that. Certainly moments where we are trying to balance what it means to develop performance and rehearse with, you know, managing our budget and our fundraising goals and maintaining other forms of the business that are incredibly crucial and important. But also, I do feel like there's something very holistic about that, where we feel very immersed in the experience of being part of the theater and being part of the company, where they do feed each other in a way. I love that you said that. Like, there's something that creates that type of, I think, either reciprocity or way in which we can build together by having both sides of that.
I want to talk a little bit about how you get your business noticed. And I'd like to start with Bronwen, because when I found out that she does an arts newsletter that just exposes the community to artists in the area, I thought, wow, that's brilliant. So I do want to talk a little bit about how, you know, you got your business noticed. Was it through the internet? Was it through collaborations? Like, how did your business sort of get out there? Some of the companies here are local and national and even have an international reach, and that's really important, I think, that we talk about, especially being in rural communities in Western Mass. So, Bronwen, why don't you talk a little bit about how the art newsletter got started, why you did it?
Sure. Well, I need to bring that closer. Okay. I had been thinking for a while that there was, it was mid-2000s, that there was a huge lack of coverage in the media, of the local media of art. I knew that there was a tremendous amount of art going on, art shows. I mean, it was just, there's tons of it. And there was no coverage. There was no central place to go to find a listing of what was going on. So I had been toying with the idea of just trying to start a comprehensive arts calendar. And in 2008, I started it. Started out very small. It's internet only. There's an email version and there's a website. It comes out once a week. Artists send me their listings. Right now, it's visual arts focused because it's just me. To include the rest of the arts would be a little overwhelming right now, but there are plans. So there was just a need that had to be filled, and I stepped in and filled it. And it's worked tremendously. And you know, part of the thing that I think is important is that artists, especially young and emerging artists, have a free place to promote their work. Because any visual artist who's having any sort of event going on, any class, can send me a listing and I'll list it for free. There really isn't anything else like that in this area. You know, you can send things to other media, but they kind of pick and choose. So, yeah.
Do you find that from your listings that artists have gotten work, or like, do you find it that it's successful, or their work gets shown in restaurants or galleries? I mean, I find one of the things in Western Mass that's amazing, like, I live in Great Barrington, but I had a meeting in Williamstown, so I stayed at Porches last night, and the hotel was covered with local artists. And actually, I was checking out and went, wow, that would look really good in my living room. And so I think that, what the arts newsletter is doing is exposure, which is really critical. So have you found that it's been successful, that people have?
I've gotten tremendous feedback and very unexpected feedback as well, from people telling me that they've gotten commissions because people have seen their name in the newsletter and have sought out their shows. There's also a very large call to artists section, and that is probably one of the places I get the most feedback from artists, because it's one of the best places to find those opportunities in the area.
Yeah, we have. I also chair an event that happens twice a year in East Hampton, Cottage Street Studios, the Open Studios event, which is about anywhere from, there's 87 studios in the building that we're located in, and we have an open studio event each year, which is all about visibility to get people to come, and we always, list with the Arts Newsletter, and we get a lot of traffic because of it. So thanks.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
It's nice to hear.
Yeah.
So anybody else about what you've done to get your business noticed specifically?
Internet, especially in Holyoke, especially for what we do. They're really, I think in our case especially, there's really not a lot of local similarities as far as making like video mashups, and we deal with a lot of movie studios in Los Angeles and in New York and ad agencies in San Francisco, and the only way to possibly transfer files or get stuff noticed is through having your website, being able to transfer files, conferences on Skype, whatnot. That's for us really key, and that was our main driver of just coming back and settling out in Holyoke as well, is that basically you have the ability to, you don't need to be in New York particularly. You can actually do it all right from there. So, I mean, it has its pluses and minuses. There's sometimes when 5:30 strikes, it goes a little dark because you don't have that dinner date with somebody at a Hollywood studio. But it really is nice because you're not distracted, and you can really focus. So, but as far as the visibility goes, the internet has been obviously everything for us.
Just in putting the panel together, I would say 10 years ago I would have had to call everybody, but I was able to go on the internet and find information about all of these artists. So I think probably to your advice, Steve, websites are critical, Facebook pages are critical, having that exposure so people can find you. But even so, how do you get noticed on the internet? That's kind of critical too.
It's a full-on effort. Social media is its own industry. We have social media interns who are showing up every day to just stay on top of all the posts, marketing, creating little press releases that are sort of in the guise of little social media posts, and it's full on. I mean, I thought I might be able to take on a little bit of that, and it's just impossible. It takes so much time. Uploading videos, uploading tracks, writing a little blog here or there, you're finished. There's no way you can do it and also do what you're actually good at.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, it's a full-on effort. Hire interns.
We just hired one. I think to also go back in terms of what you were saying, Diane, about the visibility, and we're all saying about websites, is we're going through it right now in our company. I mean, we traditionally really only marketed through trade shows and through brick and mortars, and that, of course, has really shifted dramatically in the last few years. And so we've been working with consultants and whatnot over the last 2 years to begin and take that shift. And I'm going to say, don't count anything out. I mean, it's really amazing what works and what doesn't work. Everybody's going to, says Pinterest and Instagram and Facebook and, your blog and this, and you kind of do have to try everything. It's amazing. You really don't know what is going to be the right thing. I mean, somebody was talking about Etsy before, and, we've had an Etsy page just because it's great for search engines, because people will put your name in and Etsy will come up before your website. But, we kind of use that as a tool to get people to our website. We only listed a very select amount of group of work on Etsy because of the cost and everything, but we knew that people would then be driven to our site and hopefully purchase or just see a broader range of what our capabilities are. So all those little things kind of do add up to propel you in your business or whatever it might be in terms of visibility out there.
One thing I would urge all artists, because there are a surprising amount of artists out there who still don't have websites, is to put up a website, even if it's just the most simple thing with images of your work. A frustration I encounter frequently is when I'm proposing local artists for art salon events, and I'll find an artist that I just think is brilliant, but I have to present their name and their work to a committee, and if there's no website, they can't see their work. So that's a very small opportunity, but there are opportunities that are lost when you're not putting yourself out there online.
I've definitely found with Double Edge the power of the internet, especially being based in Ashfield and what that can do for the company, but then also, which I think really speaks to many points here, how we use that power. When we first started our Facebook page, for example, all of our posts were really text heavy and had so much language about what we were doing and trying to in some ways almost explain our programming, which really was not only like a total pain to do, but also didn't really work for us in terms of the form of communication that was really effective. And so when we started to work together on what is our story, what is our our aesthetic, what are the ways we communicate, it really for us started to focus on the visuals and how our work is highly visual. Some of our performances don't even have text in them, and so we started to incorporate more photo albums, more videos, different elements that we would take photos of our farm center during different seasons. Just found different ways to tell the story that actually could incorporate that. And then something for us also that's been very interesting in visibility, that's both, I think, a blessing and somewhat of a challenge, is that we've started to tour more as a company. Even though we have annual performances in Ashfield every summer, we also tour across the country, sometimes across the world. In fact, a big contingent of my company is right now headed to Norway for a 2-city tour there. And we've started to look into tours in Springfield and Worcester. We did a tour of some of our spectacle work that you saw with the Odyssey at Amherst College, where we were actually like in the trees around the courtyard and on top of the library and really animated that space. So that has created some visibility in terms of the communities that are able to see the work and engage with the work. But then, of course, for us, there's always the challenge of how do we still maintain the work that we do at our home center and make sure that touring doesn't necessarily take away from the focus of the work, but kind of add to the building of community and visibility.
Yeah, I agree with all of the above. When I first started, there were things that I felt I was doing even out of desperation. If you called your kitchen a gallery, then I'd put my work up and I could put that on my resume, and say, that's another gallery on the list, but because nobody really looks into it, like, what's the A1 gallery, or, the two blah, blah, blah gallery, and you're like, it's my friend's kitchen. But, I think and anything from there, Facebook is important, Instagram, like posting one thing a day just to keep people up to snuff with what you're doing, because people will check into your social media before they come and see you or call you or say what's up. Yeah. And that's important. But as a younger person, I am kind of old school, and so I like the person-to-person interaction. I like to be able to shake someone's hand and say, this is who I am. It lets them know that, and seeing my smile and knowing that I'm a personable person and, getting to see my work, they will then go out and talk to other people about me. So that kind of networking is important. So I think the one thing we missed is parties. We threw a party last year, and it was amazing. The amount of people that came out, good music, good food, nice refreshments. It was a nice day out, and then you get to talk person to person with people, and whether you're handing out business cards or just just interacting in general and seeing what people are doing out there. People are already asking me, so when's the next party? What are you guys gonna do? And we're thinking Holyoke Appreciation Weekend, maybe. So, for those of you who aren't in contact through Facebook, look out for Brick Co-Workshop, and we'll, try and bring people out. But I think there are really great ways to, network with people through the internet and everything else. But one thing that's really brought me a long, long way is the person-to-person interaction and getting other people to like you enough to talk about you in a high regard. So that's
totally. Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's such an important point because it's particularly in our day and age so easy to go towards the technology as part of the outreach or connection with people, but there is, I completely agree with you where I think there's still so much value in what it means to just be with somebody, to say hello, to connect. More often than not, the visibility that we gain is when we have performances and we meet people afterwards. The artists always stay after and we connect, and there's something about that type of just, person-to-person touch that's so, so important.
Yeah, never underestimate your community, and I think that it's amazing. I mean, we only open our studio twice a year, and on average, when we do it, and we've been doing it for so long, and the other artists in our building have too, we get probably 3,000 to 4,000 people in a weekend that come through, and it's grown over the years, and it's amazing the connections that you can make. And one thing that I remember, which was always great advice in terms of visibility and building your brand and everything too, is in ties with the community, is that if you are in a rural area or you don't have one, it's crucial to find a community or begin to create one, because without that, it's so hard to get your work, whatever you're doing out there. It's just absolutely critical.
I'm going to plug in the plug-in events here because it seems like a good time to do it. But there actually are monthly, sponsored by Western Mass Economic Development Council. Ann Burke spoke earlier. But there are plug-in events all throughout the Pioneer Valley once a month. And they're for that purpose, basically, to bring the creative community together. And they're great networking events, because you can go not knowing anyone at the end of the evening. They're breakout groups, and you kind of just meet all kinds of people, and you never know the connections you make. So probably from being here, you'll be put on that list. And I would absolutely recommend going. The last one was at Gasoline Alley in Springfield, and it was highly successful, and actually we're now looking at possibly doing some film courses with Joe there for inner city kids, and it's something that was kind of out of our realm. But in terms of our education, we'd love to teach kids how to express themselves visually, because a lot of them aren't book learners, so that never would have happened. So keep an eye out for the plugins. They're all throughout the Pioneer Valley, and they happen monthly. Or then there's Kamil's parties, which may be more fun.
I still want to go to your party now.
Maybe we should call them plug-in parties, and more people would come. But maybe Kamil should do. Yeah, okay, fine.
Yeah.
We were looking how to spice them up, so I think now they're parties. Anyway, did anybody else have anything else they want to say about that? One of the things that Kamil brought up, which I thought was interesting, and also Justin, about the community and how you tie into the community to expose what you're doing and your art and who you are, and those collaborations can be really important. So if anyone wants to talk to that, I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, when Double Edge first got to Ashfield, first of all, just being on a former dairy farm, there was a lot of suspicion about this theater company that was coming into this former dairy farm and what they would be doing. And with our work being so highly physical, a lot of our kind of practice for the work would be, like running around and doing a lot of physical activity. And our neighbors actually thought we were maybe a contingent of the CIA. Like they had no idea what we were, and were really suspicious about it. But I say that to say that as we spent more time in the community and started to form connections, what actually was almost the bridge towards our development with the town of Ashfield was through getting to know farmers who had a very strong mutual respect for the land that we owned, and for our curiosity of caring for the land, and then also animating the land to create artistic performance. So we started to get to know local farmers in the area who were really invested in this, and also really wanted to help us because there were so many things we didn't know about the land. And it's now grown to the point where many of our collaborations happen on the farm with farmers who share our pastures for their cows. There's this amazing farmer who charts the weather for us, because particularly for the performances that we have outside, it's important for us to know, when a thunderstorm is about to hit, so that we can be safe and keep the audience safe. And So through that, there's been this really interesting, I think, form of cross-collaboration that's very unexpected and almost took its own form because of finding shared desire, interest, and also taking time to be in that dialogue. Another form of collaboration that's been really exciting for us is to work with local visual artists. Pretty much all of the design work that you saw in the Odyssey was created by local visual artists such as Nancy Milliken and Haley Wood, who's an amazing scenic painter, Russ Loomis, who's a carpenter. And for them, it's been a really exciting opportunity to find a way in which we can collaborate artistically. We pretty much give them open space to design what they are interested in within the means of the vision of the performance. And that's been a way, I think, to really create a broader community around what performance means.
Creative space is really hard to find. And so I think it's really important to recognize the people that are like-minded and willing to offer space like that to artists such as myself and the group that I'm working with. So, you know, my landlord is a guy who just like was really interested in who we are and what we're doing. He didn't have a, real interest in individual-based things, but looking for more of an entity that had an idea of progressiveness. So as we were talking about moving into education and bringing young people in and doing all these things, next thing you know, the Warrigon building has turned into 17,000 square feet of who we are, but it's 75,000 square feet of much more potential. And so there are other businesses involved in the building that are doing their own things, but in the same right, now Porter is a neighbor of mine and or of ours, and so being able to connect with people like him, we have connections with the local colleges because we're interested in the teaching model. So as you start to build these things, more and more starts to come out where people say, oh, I didn't know you do that. So it's not just about residential and commercial, but sure, if you want a railing in your house or a sculpture in your backyard, that comes from it as well. And that's also that same form of collaboration that starts to happen because once again, people are talking you up. But the more people you can meet that are like-minded, and community is huge, as you were saying, because as people start to recognize who you are and what you're doing, more people start to come to you. But I think it really starts with that foundation of like-minded people that can provide space, because that's the hardest thing to come by in the area.
Collaboration, in terms of, I think about it in terms of working with other creatives or other businesses, and also with visibility as well. One thing that we've had great experience doing is other friends who are artists or they might have like a website as well. We'll put each other's work on our website and feature it. So that you then you get that whole connection of that person as well as your own. And so there's like this, it's a free exchange, and if you respect each other and like their work, like that's a great way of doing it, or, teaming up in some way with other groups of people, or even like online, say, bloggers or somebody who you might not think is related, but you can kind of get your work out there that way as well, which I think is kind of great. And also working with other artists. What we do is we work with a lot of other creatives in the area, like woodworkers, or they're blue-collar artisans, who Michael Poole is here, who does all the welding for our studio. We kind of do collaborative work with him, or give him designs that we've come up with because we don't know how to weld, but we want to do this cool welded, sculpture or lighting piece. And so it's kind of symbiotic, and that's great.
Want to talk about the salon a bit? Your art salon?
Sure.
Just another way to, or I can ask another question, either one.
Go ahead. I'll ask another question.
I guess, we are in Greenfield, we are in Western Mass, and I think we have an advantage with the internet now to get our work seen around the world, where we didn't have that before. But just to talk a little bit about, why Western Mass, while you're here, Steve, you sort of touched on it, quality of life, the advantages and disadvantages of being here, and how you make your business visible. I think in some ways, when I do work in Boston, they don't understand how we all work together in Western Mass. Well, first of all, they think Western Mass is Worcester, but besides that, no offense, Tim. But I find, like you were saying, there's a real collaborative nature here to cross over into different art mediums and work together. So just to speak a little bit about being here in Western Mass and what it's like being an artist here.
I think one of the wonderful things about this area is we have this community that's built in that's hugely receptive to the arts already. So if you're an artist or creative, you just need to tap into that. You know, if it's almost, it's easier here, I suppose, than being in Boston or being in New York, because it's a smaller area, and it just, people are just hungry for it. There's such a huge amount of creative people out here that it's just a great place to be if you're in any creative industry.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a great opportunity to make an impression. You know, I think that when I first saw Holyoke, I was like, man, this is like a clean slate. There's like almost nothing happening here. So it's come a long way. It's been, but it's just there's sort of a, I don't know, kind of a hobbyistic kind of approach to it. Like, man, I can do something. I can dig a hole here and make a difference and make an impression here, and also, you know, join forces with other people who are trying to make a positive difference in the area as well. And it's happening. It's definitely happening. So there's that element, which is sort of almost kind of like your own, you know, you're playing your own version of Sim City. You know, that's the way I look like it. When I loved that game. You know, you put down your little plot of land and you just grow the building up and you put people in it, or you put artists in it or whatever. And that's something you can do here that you can't do in New York unless you're a multi-billionaire. So that's where the grass is greener. Obviously, there's less people here, but that's also the fun part too. You know, you get to know more people. So yeah, I think it's definitely there's two sides of it, but that's the beauty of it. It's kind of open canvas in Western Mass.
But you can also have this as your home base.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Which is nice, because in my other work, doing web development, I work a little bit like you, Steve. I have clients that are all across the country, so I can stay here and never have to leave. Yeah. In a lot of ways, just, you know, as long as I have the internet.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, you can just go for a nice hike or whatever, and like, I mean, when I lived in Manhattan, like, I never left like my 3-block radius. I went to one deli every day, you know, breathing that air, never going skiing or biking or whatever that I used to stuff I used to do. So yeah, I mean, you can have a really good quality of life as well, and also get, you know, plenty of really cool buildings, real estate in the area you can get involved with that's just sitting there. If you have a vision, you know, especially if you're artistic and you want to do your own little Sim City, you can do it right here. So yeah.
Yeah, I think there's definitely something I think so amazing and just so captivating about the essence of space and community that's in this area. You know, when Double Edge first came to Ashfield, it was really a question, truthfully, for the company about whether this would be more of a rehearsal performance space or whether we'd all live in Ashfield or find a way where we'd be part of this community, and just totally fell in love with it and fell in love with the fact that there were so many long-term relationships we were able to establish with the community that were very meaningful, you know, not something that felt, you know, artificial or superficial, but that people really wanted to work together and create together for a long period of time. And then having the openness of space, you know, of being able to have, you know, expansive acres of rehearsal space and performance space, it truly inspired us and influenced us. Like, I actually wonder if our work would have taken more of an outdoor approach had we not been in this environment, because this environment is true inspiration. Every time we're outside, it brings something. So I think that's such a gift, and I feel like space right now for artists, you know, I used to work in Washington, D.C. I was there for 8 years, and real estate and space is such a large question right now in terms of how you deal with the finances. So to be able to have the luxury of space that you can own, that you can develop on more freely, that can then also influence, inspire the work is incredible.
One of my early mentors mentioned or had this like concept theory about the places surrounding us. So, you know, in New York, you really have to know somebody to dig a hole. You have to ask them if you can use their garage, use their building, use their space to set yourself up. And if so, then they'll let you do your thing right here in this little small area, you know. Boston, there's not a lot of room, but you can find a little bit of a niche and build your way up, but there's nowhere to build out, it's just up. Whereas he used this area, his metaphor for this area was, it's like a network of trees, and there's a lot of big trees, but it leaves space for smaller trees to sprout up, and the bigger trees are so communicative and open that they spread their leaves and let the sun shine in to let these smaller trees come up and become something. And I grew up here, so I've really been able to experience that firsthand. And what's interesting about that is being here now with the progression that we've been making, the high-speed railways come in so you can get to New York quicker. Now you have access to Boston, Rhode Island, Connecticut, all these surrounding places that are also supportive, because for somebody like me who can't necessarily send an 11-foot giraffe made of propane tanks over the internet, I got to drive it there, So my network now expands quite a bit because I have all these places close enough besides my local area that's been very supportive as well. So for me, it becomes a place where you're able to still hike and bike and do these things. A good place to raise a kid, but you're not congested, but close enough to the rest of it to still be involved in it all.
I ran a visual effects studio in the 90s, and one of the things we found to that point was, we were always given, can you design something that's never been seen before by somebody in Hollywood? And we'd get a team out here. Well, first of all, when we got them out here, they're like, where are we? But what I found out was when we really hit some technical problems in movie making, everybody would just go for a hike. It's like, okay, we can't figure, and come back and figure it out. And we were able to create visual effects that had never been seen before, and that was amazing. And people fell in love with that. And even though the studio isn't here anymore, a lot of people stayed because they fell in love with the quality of life. And so I think just as an artistic community, living out here, there's a lot of freedom, as opposed to those of us who have worked in the city. I was also at the same deli in the same 3-block area. So I think that's a great point about the expression or how your art is influenced by the area, but that's a different panel. So I just actually would like to go down the line and leave some time for questions, because I'm sure there's artists out there or people, businesses that would like to take advantage of this amazing panel. So if there's just sort of one thing, everybody here has an amazing brand, an amazing story. It's one of the things that Tim said. What's your story? What's your brand? How are you going to distinguish your business? And, so what is one piece of advice that you can give the audience about how you developed into the company that you are today? Sorry, that was a little profound.
Yeah.
It's a question.
Deep.
A piece of advice, something about developing your business as an artist.
I think the piece of advice is that you got to work. I mean, it's a pretty rotten thing to say, but it's really true. You're gonna don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of business, of being labeled as a business person, or also taking that on. I think a lot of people get freaked out about the idea of thinking of brand as an other, like can have very negative connotations, but it's okay to think of yourself as your brand. Don't get lost in it, but you are a brand, whether you realize it or not, and I think it's crucial to accept that and kind of expand on it and then project it, either whether you're in music, theater, visual arts, whatever it might be. It's actually fun. You get to kind of put what your thoughts and your view on the world is into something and distill it down to present it to a broader audience. That's my thing.
I suppose what I would say is own your visibility. You could be the most amazing creative genius around, but if you're not working hard to show people your work, to get your work out there, if you build it, they're not going to come necessarily. You have to put the work in to get your work noticed. And I think nowadays we have the internet. There's so many free avenues for doing that, for getting a start doing that. So that's my 2 cents.
Nice. Okay, I got it. I would say it's always hard to select one. And this might even be 2. Yeah, we'll see. I think something, and I felt like this was really present with just hearing everyone's amazing thoughts, was just leaving yourself open for the possibility of experimentation with your visibility and for the unexpected or the discovery. I think, what we do is not necessarily a known quantity by any means. We're creatives. We find ways to develop that I think are not always something we can predetermine. So what that means in terms of allowing yourself to experiment with, your look or your storytelling or who you collaborate with or who you share, your audience or community with, there's just so much that's possible. And I feel like for us, I'm really grateful to say that I think some of the most amazing experiences we've had have come from those unexpected collaborations or connections or ways in which we've tried something that we really didn't think would work and then kind of found a path through that.
Definitely. I would say use unrelenting determination towards your goals with your brand. But at the same token, never forget to stop and think about where you're going and reassess where you're going, because it is in my shoes. I'm the kind of person that works way too hard, and you can do that. You can also work too hard, and so you can burn out, and you can also lose track of where you're going. So I think it's back to that word balance again. You want to have unrelenting determination, but you don't want to burn out or lose track of where you're going. Always think about where you're trying to go. Reassess the goals for your company. Just think about it. It's amazing if you just sit there and wait, where am I going? Where is this going? Okay, I've done all this stuff, but what's the next step? And you'd be shocked. When you ask somebody what their goals are, some people haven't really asked themselves what their goals are.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I'll think about, I got to think about it right now. Where am I going? I know what's right now or tomorrow, but where am I really going? So it is such an easy thing to do. Just sit down and think about it. But it's a conversation I'm always having with myself or my friends. Where are you going? Where am I going? And just keep thinking about that.
All right, so the toughest question for last. I think all these social images come to my mind. I found one the other day, and it's like a mouse in a mouse trap, but he's bench pressing it. Whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. A rhino on a treadmill looking at a poster of a unicorn, running, as fast as he can, or, the frog going down the stork's mouth but choking it out, and it says, never give up, and so, all of these things carry over because it's based off of that, it takes 10,000 hours to become a master kind of thing. And as I look at myself, maybe I'm 5,000 hours in, but people often ask me, how do you get to where you are now? And it's well, I don't know, I put 5,000 hours in, I guess, and I still know that I have 5,000 more to go. And even when I get there, I know it's going to be more, but it's just about not stopping and, not really looking back, So interesting to quote a hip-hop verse, but, spaceships don't come equipped with rear-view mirrors. They just keep going forward, They keep moving forward and don't worry about their progression or speed so long as that progression is in a constant direction. So that's the best I can say for that right now. Thanks.
I think we can open up to questions if we have a mic. Excellent. It's amazing.
Hello? Okay, great. Anyone have any questions out here? Please identify yourself first.
I'm Evan Plotkin with NAI Plotkin. And first of all, I just wanted to applaud this great panel. Very inspirational. And I want to also point out that Kamil and I worked together with the Performance Project, doing a beautiful mural, which is right around the corner from my office, and it says Unity on it, and it's a really fabulous piece. Every time I go by it, I think about it. I'm thinking about how important it is. Talk about visibility. about how important it is to take space and utilize it and activate it. It's kind of what my whole life has been about, but I'll be a panelist later and I can tell you more about that. I just wanted to say thank Kamil and everybody on this panel for the great work that they're doing, and I hope to see you all in Springfield sometime because I got some really good ideas.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Evan. Over here.
Hi, Lucinda Kidder, Silverthorne Theater Company. We are a new company. Hello, Bev. We are a new company, and actually we're going to be performing right here at Greenfield Community College this summer, so we ask you all to come out. My question is, the internet is fabulous as a way to get in touch with people. However, I'm wondering about the use of emails and email constant contact, that type of connection. What's the fine line between getting the information out to people who really want it and just bothering people with constantly contacting them? I find myself getting really annoyed, even with my very best friends in the theater world, that I can't go to that event. I can't go, please, I don't need it in my inbox again. I don't need to delete it again. I mean, I know it's an easy thing to do, but I just guess I wonder, how do we avoid annoying people but still keeping them informed?
We use constant contact, and I know what you're talking about because you don't want to annoy people. And I think it's something you have to be somewhat artful about. You don't want to send one out every week. Try to pace it out so it's, once a month, or if it's really important, send something out, but you don't want to spam people. But at the same time, email is one of the most organic versions of outreach you can have. Facebook is a paid thing now. You have to pay to have your posts seen now on Facebook. So if you want to talk organic reach, email is still king as far as organic reach. So it's just, I think, an art form in itself to not spam people with every little thing. I would say my suggestion would be bundle up a newsletter with tons of information and I would say shoot that bullet wisely, because you just don't want to just keep putting little blurbs in their boxes and annoying them, just what you write in the email as well. You want it to seem as sincere as possible. You don't want it to seem like you're just mass sending out, to everybody the same email. You try to target down a little bit. Okay, I'm sending it to this group or these people, and if at the very least you could have a first name in there, But that's how we usually handle it as well. But it is a pretty powerful tool, especially if you want to just keep contact with people. I think some people are not so against having emails in their inbox. I think some people are annoyed, some people are not. But I suffer from that same phobia of, am I annoying people? On Twitter or on email? But in the most cases, you have to promote yourself and connect with people via email. So.
First of all, congratulations on being a new theater company. That's fantastic. I have that question about email overload, and often am probably annoying people all the time with my emails. It's a struggle, but I totally agree with Steve, where I think that finding a balance in terms of that form of communication, because it is a very effective form of communication, is key. Something that we've done at Double Edge is we used to send out more frequent group emails, usually every couple of weeks, and realized just how offensive that was in certain ways to our audience. So we now do it on almost a monthly or a month-and-a-half basis that's more consolidated, and then do a lot of personal email outreach that's really, very direct to the people that we, care about and we want to connect with, and just write a very, very personalized note that's not a form. I personally do a lot of phone calls. I like to pick up the phone. I like to connect with people. I try to go to places where I can connect with new communities or audiences. So finding, whether those are, different arts festivals, or, at Ashfield we have this amazing, amazing place called Elmer's, which is a restaurant and general store that's kind of the hub. So I spend a lot of time there. I actually at one point started started just taking office hours there and would just be around, kind of working, connecting with people. So I think, finding different ways in which that can happen, but also allowing email to be a form that's managed.
Yeah, I mean, I think we as well have that, and I have that phobia. I think, just in general, I think when you're a conscious person, you're aware of being bothered, or bothering others, and vice versa. And so, one advice we got, because I was concerned about that with one campaign that we did, actually just recently, and when I spoke with a marketing consultant, their advice was, well, look at how many unsubscribes you get. Then you'll know you're bothering people. And so, if you get a certain percentage, then you've hit people's limit. And I was amazed, personally, how many emails people don't mind getting. So keep that in mind. Especially if there's an event. If you have an event going on, go ahead, send them every week. A monthly newsletter is a great thing. I think it's great for any business. It kind of gives you something like a goal to focus on and say, what are we going to put in the newsletter? What are we going to talk about? What's the topic? Who can we get involved? What do we want to talk about? What do we want to promote? And then when there is an event going, we usually do, if we have a studio event or a trunk show, or we're going to be at a trade show, I'll send out 3 or 4 emails a week, and it's not too many. And I'll send out the emails during the event as well, because people forget. Yeah.
I would say just be judicious. Make sure that what you're sending is important, and make sure that the byline is enticing. That's whatever you put in the byline, like,
free barbecue.
Free barbecue, or party at Kamil's, different one, right? And we've also found, so like Justin said, if we're having an event or a big, we did do this exchange, like we'll ramp it up. So, and we find also, like, I'll be out in town and somebody will say, oh, I've been seeing your emails. And the unsubscribe is a great way to know. And also the open rate. If you're getting a high open rate, then people are interested in what you're sending. And the other thing is, I know it sounds old-fashioned, but every once in a while we send out just a postcard or something, I find the noise of the internet, like, I don't know about you, I get over 100 emails a day. And so sometimes I can't keep up with it. And if I just get a postcard about a screening or a art opening, I'll still keep it in my kitchen. So I would say sort of change it up so you're not doing the same thing all the time, and that's what keeps it interesting. But also, if you send something out that's a piece of paper, it has to be really visually interesting.
It's taken on kind of print it's interesting with the advent of email and the internet. Print's kind of like, it's like getting a birthday card in the mail. Now when you get any mail, like that's the only time I get cards and stuff. It's like everything else is digital. So, sending out a postcard like the old-fashioned way, it kind of will get a lot of people's attention. I mean, it's amazing.
I want to just throw something in there to build on that.
Yeah.
Actually, that piece of, one of the thing we want is building relationships, and you all have touched on that, and you're kind of veering into that. So I'm curious about tactics you all have used to build relationships with your marketing. Like, once you get a customer or a patron, how have you worked to retain them and also have them be a loyal, repeat customer or patron?
We sent them some really cool USB sticks to keep all their data on. That was just one thing, just to say hello without soliciting anything. It was more like a gift of "we still love you."
Swag is good. Yeah. Swag is good. And I have to shout out to Laura Gratz, who works with me. She writes thank you notes to people. Like, if somebody buys your art, or somebody comes, or it's someone who makes a donation or whatever, write them a note. I'm terrible at it, but thank goodness Laura's really good at it. So it's that personal touch that really works. And you'll find, they come to your next networking event, or whatever. You'll get repeat business.
I second the thank you notes. That's something that we've started to really emphasize, handwritten notes, and that's made a big difference. I know something that's been just really important for us as well, but also we've heard from many of our audience members and constituents that this has been important, is that after every performance that we have, no matter whether it's in Ashfield or elsewhere, there's always a post-performance gathering of some kind. So in Ashfield, we do it over drinks, and all the artists come out and we spend time talking to everyone. When we're on tour, sometimes the drinks are not always provided, unfortunately, but we find a way to just connect. We always come out. And so there's always kind of that in-person touch with the artist that you've just seen after the performance.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else? Okay. Sure.
I'd be remiss if I didn't actually mention Creative Ground, which is one of those free online avenues to get the word out about what you do. It's an online directory for artists, creative businesses, and cultural nonprofits. And as I said, it's completely free for you to set up a profile. It's also a great way to find collaborators. So Double Edge, for instance, is on Creative Ground. They're one of our features. And it's great to show your role in the creative economy as well. It quantifies what's happening in New England. It's all New England artists and organizations. So by putting yourself on there, you're adding to this case we're making for how important the creative community is to the economy. So please stop by the table. I can give you a demo and tell you more about it, or talk to Double Edge or Seth Lepore, who's also on Creative Ground, about the process and how you can use it.
Yeah.
Anyone else that I'm not seeing? All right. Do you all have anything else to say, Diane?
Oh, wait 1 sec. Oh, okay. If you are leaving after lunch, please take a couple of minutes and fill out the evaluation forms. It's really important for us to know as we plan summits in the future. All right, I feel like an auctioneer. Any more questions? Going once, going twice. Oh, 2 more.
Hi, Lisa Blackburn, North Adams City Council, Sandusfield Town Administrator, Berkshire County from the north to the south. This is more of a general question. How do you promote the community as a whole? Sandusfield is a small community. We have an art center that's growing, some publicity growing. We've got some artists. We've got a lot of natural beauty. We've got a lot of other, hunters, gatherers, fishing, swimming available. But then I have North Adams, which is, we've got Mass Mocha. We've got a world-class museum, and I want to get people to know about the rest of the artistic ventures that are going on in that community. And I know collaboration is good, and having a meeting space a lot easier in North Adams than in Sandusfield.
I would look at a model like East Hampton City Arts, which is it's kind of a municipal office at this point, and it's all it brings together the entire creative community in the city.
Yeah, it's a great organization. It's was started really with the city municipality recognizing that the creative economy was going to be and potentially a huge part of the kind of rebirth of the town, and so eventually they created East Hampton City Arts, which is actually East Hampton City Arts Plus, which kind of brought together these other organizations. And they organize arts, Arts Walk, Arts Night Out. I mean, the salon. I mean, it's amazing.
It's transformed.
It really has. And Burns Maxey, who was here at registration, is the person you want to talk to.
Do you have any idea what their budget is?
I don't, but she would.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
I do know that they are partially grant funded.
They are.
So there are grants available.
I would also say parties. And in all seriousness, though, what starts to happen at these events, party events, is your network starts to build. So the first party you throw, it might really suck, because not enough people come out. But then as it starts to build, people are like, hey, what's going on there? It was a great time. I can't believe we missed it. And more people start to come, and you gain visibility. So it takes time to build it, but now, next thing you know, you have people coming up to your neck of the woods from here because they want to know what's going on there as well. And so as you're networking with people from different counties and whatnot, it really starts to expand pretty rapidly. So Yeah, parties.
I did have a question, but I'm just going to follow up on that last one. I used to run a cultural development project for Turner's Falls River Culture, and when it started, about 6 months afterwards, people would come up to me and say, "My God, how did you get all this stuff going on?" And really, I just said it was already going on, but just people didn't know about it. So, I mean, I think people are attracted to density, and when there's lots of things happening, people notice. So by connecting with your community and getting involved in East Hampton City Arts or any initiatives that organizations are running is going to give you instant exposure, and it's going to let everybody else see that there's a density of action. Just like there was a restaurant in Turner's that opened, and she was actively out on the street trying to find other restaurants to come to town. And everyone was like, "Oh, well, that's going to be your competition." And she said, "No, it's a district. It's going to be like a place where people come to eat, and I want to be part of that." And that's similar here. But my question was, for Amrita, how do you reach out to an international community? How did you get exposure in Czechoslovakia and all these other places? How do you do that?
Yeah.
I know there's the internet, but like, how do you do that?
Yeah, totally. There is internet, but there's also, I mean, for us, actually, what started with our international kind of community development, so to speak, was spending a lot of time internationally, as well as also our company itself is very international. So all of us brought in our different communities into that process. You know, one of our company members is from Argentina, another one from England, another one from Bulgaria. I grew up in the States, but have a very strong connection to India and have a very strong community there. And so we found ways in which part of our development of community could be bringing our own communities into that and, you know, connecting with our community partners or contacts there. And then, you know, it has been actually a lot of time either researching in other places around the world, developing performances in other places around the world, and also finding ways in which we can bring more of an international community to Western Mass. Like, we have a really, you know, a pretty broad list of international contacts that we constantly invite, some of whom have never come and some of whom do, and kind of see, you know, what our world is, what we're creating here, and then develop, you know, an interest in bringing us to other places. I would say it's one of the hardest parts of the work, and I don't mean that negatively. It's just, it's an incredible thing and something I'm super curious about in terms of how do you maintain a sense of international relationship with that physical distance. So we've tried to identify many different ways, but mostly have been working with the communities that are part of us, as well as spending time in those communities and bringing them here.
Sorry, this is more of a comment than a question, but I'm here representing the Massachusetts Cultural Council, and I just wanted to pitch the local Cultural Council program. Every single city and town in Massachusetts has a local Cultural Council, and I'm sure maybe there's a couple volunteers here that might be in the room as well. But if you're interested in connecting with your cultural community in your own town, I highly recommend getting in touch and consider becoming a volunteer in your local Cultural Council. It's a state grant program that gets distributed all across the city, to every city and town, and some cities and towns also match that funding, and ECA Plus is just one example. As a component of ECA Plus is also the local Cultural Council component. So if you have any questions about that, please come and talk to me. Thanks.
Awesome.
I wanted to ask a question about newspapers. Do you use newspapers? We blitz various newspapers, and some are responsive to getting photos in, and some have, you know, policies about not putting a photo in, and if it gets buried in a lot of print, very often we don't get information out. So I was wondering if you use newspapers, and how do you use them?
We don't use newspapers, but
you know, that's awesome. I love just getting that out there. Yeah, you know, at Double Edge, we we do have kind of a combination of within our local paper, the Ashfield News. Awesome paper. We do have a regular column that's there where we share some updates, and then also with some of the regional papers as well as some more national publications, it's a combination of reviews and features. What we've tried to identify, which we found is really compelling in terms of how we connect with newspapers and what we found our audiences really respond to, are photo features. Last year, the Recorder came for a rehearsal and just took a bunch of photos and actually did a photo collage of our summer spectacle performance last year, and that was very meaningful. So we find a way to work with the press and work with newspapers in that way. Certainly reviews sometimes are not always positive, which can be, sometimes can be beneficial or not. But there's definitely, for us, especially within this region, we've had a lot of support, which has been great.
At Berkshire Film and Media Collaborative, we do both. We do both sometimes, but like for us, we're trying to establish the film and media industry. So Business West did a very large article on us, and that was great because a lot of the business community reads that. So for us, if we have a major event, a conference or something, we'll use them. We actually use both. But again, pictures and interviews, making it very personal is the way to go.
It's almost 12:30. Do you want to take one more question?
Sure.
Okay. Brian Paul, UMass Amherst student.
So as Todd said, I'm a student at UMass. I'm a sculpture student, and I'm also an arts management certificate candidate. And I also work on the University Public Arts Committee, writing policy for them. And my question is, how do each of your different organizations or whoever sort of has a comment, how do you measure the success of your different efforts, like to connect with people? You mentioned email metrics and things like that, but what are some of the more intangible things that you're sort of measuring?
Social media metrics, you can dig deep into that. You can see where the click-throughs are coming through and whatnot. That's a pretty deep world, Google Analytics and so you can actually really hammer into exactly what's been successful for you from a social media standpoint, looking into, the ad, going into the back end of the ads that you run or your posts as well. But it can be also pretty disheartening if you're not putting like you were saying, you put too much text into a post. It takes a little tinkering to find out what makes a good post or what makes a good presentation. And then also, what you're putting into it as far as like if you're going to promote it with some money. And then you look in the back end and you can see, how it's performing, where people are coming from, and so forth. That would be one way.
Yeah, I mean, you got to really, you got to try it all, just to get that information. Like, do a post that is only an image, one that's all text, one that mixes it, and then look at the analytics for what did well. I mean, For me, the bottom line for how to measure it at the end of the day is cash. If somebody bought the work either through our e-commerce site or they're a collector who came back or a gallery placed an order or whatever it is. So my bottom line is that in the end. And so we do have deliverables and a way of measuring it. But the analytics is the key way. I mean, all that information's there. It just takes the time to sift through it and see and then say, these two avenues worked. Maybe it's Pinterest and maybe it's Facebook or whatever it is. Print's never worked for us. Everything, only to advertise an event coming up. Print, whether it be I've advertised in national publications and in shelter magazines, all that. And honestly, it's never been worth it. It's a lot of money.
Yep.
Yeah.
I just wanted to quickly share, in addition to analytics, we haven't consistently done this, but for certain workshops or programs that we have a survey or evaluation afterwards. Sometimes that's done through SurveyMonkey, or sometimes that's, a hard copy sheet of paper. That's been really helpful in terms of just gaining a sense of a person's experience with, our performance or a workshop. And we also are now embarking on an economic impact study, working with a local consultant to be able to essentially look at kind of the full gamut or spectrum of our organization's programming and actually be able to, in some ways, I think both quantify and qualify, what has been the economic impact in our area, in our region, what has been some of the ways in which our budget has grown. So finding a way to take those analytics and take other metrics that we've established, but get a fuller sense of how the organization is growing and what the impact is.
I would second that. We do surveys. We just did a class on cinematography, and we do a SurveyMonkey survey right afterwards. When we did our film and media exchange for the industry, we sent out a SurveyMonkey survey, and we got a 70% return on the survey, so that was great. And now it's going to help us plan for this year. And as well, we actually got a Mass Cultural Council grant and did an economic impact study of a film coming to Western Massachusetts, a rural community. So for us, it's about telling the story. So it surveys, and I'm really glad to hear you're doing that too, because it helps to build the story about the creative economy here. So I shouldn't have the last word. Anybody have anything else they want to add?
Yeah, I guess on my parties.
And that's it. Thank you very much.
I guess, he totally made me do that. On my side, it's been tough because I've been in quite a few newspapers. So to go back to your question, a lot of different writings from Preview Magazine to the Gazette, Advocate. It's really hard to quantify positive feedback as an independent artist, little or less as a business owner, for something that isn't putting as much out, because it's more individually based. But I do get a lot of positive feedback, and things like this sort of let me know that, people are calling for me and looking for me because I'm getting invited to do such things. So it's a smaller yield, but the jobs sort of keep coming. So that's sort of what makes it more quantifiable, is that somebody that I've never met before, because I'm like handing out business cards to the point where I'm almost littering, that are, calling me from where. And so like I start to do my own surveys where it's like, hey, where'd you hear about me? Was it Paradise City Arts Festival? Did you get a business card somewhere? Was it on my website? Blah, blah, blah. But, it's just progression that sort of keeps rolling. And over time, you're successful and sort of happy, in parties.
The last word, I guess, is just also to get yourself listed, either with like Bronwen's art newsletter, get yourself in there. We have a database if you're a film person or you have a desire to be an extra or a PA. There are ways to get yourself and your work out there, your locations, whatever. So just join as many places, go to networking events, and get yourself out there. I hope some of you guys will hang out during lunch if people have more questions. I am just so honored to be sitting up here with these incredible artists and creatives, and please help me thank them for their time.
All of our productions at GCTV are brought to you in part by People's United Bank, 45 Federal Street in Greenfield. Call them at 774-3713 or visit them online at peoples.com. C&S Wholesale Grocers is hiring in Hatfield and Brattleboro. Go to weselectthebest.com or click on the link at gctv.org for employment opportunities. The Arbors at Greenfield, assisted living community providing a unique balance of independence and personal care that offers residents and families the most precious gift of all, peace of mind. The Hammond Family. The Hammond family are longtime supporters of Greenfield Community Television. New Fortune Chinese Restaurant on the Mohawk Trail in Greenfield. Visit them online at newfortunema.com and check them out on Facebook. Greenfield Community College, providing access and excellence in higher education in the Pioneer Valley. gcc.mass.edu. Greenfield Savings Bank. Visit them at 400 Main Street in Greenfield, call them at 774-3191, or go online to greenfieldsavings.com. Franklin Community Co-op. Visit them at 144 Main Street in Greenfield, or go online to franklincommunity.coop. Bay State Health, providing the care you and your family need when you need it close to home. Visit them online at baystatehealth.org. Thank you to our sponsors for supporting all the productions at Greenfield Community Television.